Although Marcus Aurelius never formally identified as a philosopher, his writings have transcended time, establishing themselves as some of the most profound Stoic scriptures in ancient history. His Meditations, a collection of personal reflections, is steeped in Stoic principles, one of the most poignant being the acceptance of fate and the necessity to live in harmony with nature's demands. Unlike the common human inclination to desire that events unfold according to our wishes, Marcus Aurelius advocated for a wiser approach, to accept the universe as it is, cultivating a resilient mindset that remains flexible toward external circumstances while holding ourselves to a standard of inner discipline. However, in the human experience, there is a persistent tendency to chase after an ideal life, one where comfort, companionship, and success are ever present. We yearn for a world that aligns with our desires, to be surrounded by kind and supportive individuals, to fulfill our aspirations, to cling to youth, and to navigate life without encountering misfortune. Yet more often than not, we find ourselves discontented with our physical forms and innate abilities, rejecting the imperfections that are intrinsically part of who we are. In essence, the human condition is marked by an excess of wanting and a scarcity of accepting when it comes to the uncontrollable aspects of our existence. The more we demand from the universe, the more vulnerable we become to the inevitable sting of disappointment. It is highly probable that, despite our best efforts, we will cross paths with difficult people, fall short of achieving our dreams, or only reach them partially, face adversity, and inevitably succumb to the passage of time. When these inescapable realities disturb our peace, we risk becoming mere puppets to our environment, our emotions swayed by the unpredictable tides of life. In his Meditations, Marcus Aurelius persistently reminded himself to embrace whatever fate delivers, to welcome each moment as it is, and to strive for a life well lived regardless of external conditions. This exploration delves into the wisdom of accepting the universe as it is, rather than futilely opposing it in an attempt to mold it to our desires. For those interested in delving deeper into Stoic philosophy, you can find more insights in my book, Stoicism for Inner Peace, which compiles my reflections on maintaining tranquility and focus in a chaotic world. A link to the book is provided in the description. 1. Embracing the nature of others. Imagine someone hurls an insulting joke at you, or perhaps even worse, at someone dear to you. How would a Stoic philosopher respond to such a slight? Would they allow anger to surge, or worse, resort to violence in retaliation? Marcus Aurelius, in his profound wisdom, advised himself not to inflate such moments into something greater than they are. In this scenario, someone has merely made a joke at your expense. But pause for a moment. Did the joke itself actually harm you? The truth is, a joke holds no power unless you grant it that power. The emotions of anger, sadness, or even the impulse toward violence are creations of your own mind. They do not inherently accompany the joke. As Marcus Aurelius insightfully observed, when others speak ill of you, add nothing of your own from within, and that's an end of it. These words remind us that dealing with people means confronting the unpredictable and uncontrollable aspects of human nature. In our interactions, we encounter a spectrum of individuals. Some embody goodness and morality, while others may lean towards evil or immorality. There are those who are diligent and helpful, and those who are lazy and exploitative. Some enjoy making jokes, while others may be quick to lash out with violence. Despite these differences, Marcus Aurelius emphasized a fundamental truth. Whether people are arrogant, ungrateful, deceitful, or unsocial, we are all bound by the shared essence of humanity. Human nature is a blend of beauty and ugliness, and it is in recognizing this duality that Marcus Aurelius encouraged himself to accept everyone, even those who are seemingly evil, without allowing them to disturb his inner peace. To him, our purpose here is not to act against one another, but to cooperate, for acting in opposition is contrary to the very nature we share. We often desire that people behave according to our expectations, yet reality teaches us that each individual possesses their own will. Their actions are not within our control. While we may influence others, in the end, they will act as they choose, no matter how irrational or foolish those actions may appear to us. Thus, pouring vast amounts of energy into trying to change others is not only futile, but also a poor use of our time and resources. Marcus Aurelius wisely counseled, "Don't waste the rest of your time here worrying about other people. Unless it affects the common good, it will keep you from doing anything useful. You'll be too preoccupied with what so-and-so is doing, and why, and what they're saying, and what they're thinking, and what they're up to, and all the other things that throw you off and keep you from focusing on your own mind." This sage advice serves as a reminder to focus on what we can control, our own thoughts and actions, rather than becoming entangled in the uncontrollable behavior of others. 2. Embracing the ephemeral. The wisdom of the ancients, the rise and fall of empires, the once glorious kingdoms, all these eventually dissolve into dust and ashes, mere echoes in the vast corridors of time. Marcus Aurelius, in his Contemplations, likened the fleeting nature of human life to leaves caught in the wind. These leaves sprout with vigor in the spring, only to be scattered and replaced as the seasons turn. In his reflections, the Stoic emperor was profoundly aware of the transient nature of all things. What we hold dear today, what we consider monumental, swiftly fades into obscurity, becoming nothing more than ghosts of a bygone era. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the fate of the great emperors and philosophers of old, figures who once commanded immense influence and whose words shaped the world. These individuals, though powerful and revered in their time, were ultimately reduced to mere dust, their legacies diminished by the relentless march of time. Just as leaves sprout, flourish, and eventually fall, so too do generations of men come into existence and pass away. We begin our journey as a mere speck of potential, and before we fully comprehend the breadth of life, it is already drawing to a close. Everything around us is temporary, and our time here is but a fleeting moment, especially when compared to the vast expanse of our planet's history, let alone the infinite stretch of the universe. In the words of Marcus Aurelius, "Forget everything else. Keep hold of this alone and remember it. Each of us lives only now, this brief instant. The rest has been lived already or is impossible to see. The span we live is small, small as the corner of the earth in which we live it, small as even the greatest renown, passed from mouth to mouth by short-lived stick figures, ignorant alike of themselves and those long dead." This reflection serves as a poignant reminder that our lives, no matter how grand we may perceive them, are but tiny flickers in the grand tapestry of existence. For some, the awareness of life's transience may evoke a sense of sorrow. The notion that death reclaims us so soon after we come into being can feel deeply unsettling. Consequently, many people cling desperately to life, seeking to extend it beyond natural limits, chasing after the elusive fountain of eternal youth. Yet all such efforts to defy the natural order are in vain. We are allotted only a limited span of time, most of which is often spent battling the inevitable decline of our bodies. However, there is a silver lining to the transient nature of the universe. The very impermanence of all things strips them of their power to cause us lasting distress. Marcus Aurelius offered a striking example by reflecting on the fleeting nature of reputation. He wrote, "But look at how soon we're all forgotten. The abyss of endless time that swallows it all. The emptiness of all those applauding hands. The people who praise us, how capricious they are, how arbitrary, and the tiny region in which it all takes place. The whole earth a point in space, and most of it uninhabited." By recognizing how ephemeral both praise and criticism are, we can free ourselves from the undue weight we place on such matters. The more deeply we grasp the brevity of our existence, the less inclined we are to squander our energy on trivial concerns. Instead, we become more attuned to the preciousness of the time we have. From the Stoic perspective, the shortness of life serves as a powerful incentive not to waste a single moment. Whatever we aspire to achieve, whatever dreams we wish to pursue, now is the time to act. 3. Embracing the inevitability of misfortune. We may spend our days wishing and praying that misfortune never darkens our doorsteps, yearning for a life free from the harsh blows that existence can deliver. Yet when we take a sober look at reality, we come to a stark realization. No one is exempt from the shadows that life inevitably casts. Adversity is woven into the very fabric of existence, an inescapable thread that runs through every life. If we choose to resist it, to battle against the inevitable, we don't merely suffer the hardships themselves. We compound our misery by adding the bitterness of unmet expectations. Nevertheless, many people exhaust themselves in a futile struggle against fate, trying desperately to ward off the misfortunes that they fear might come. When illness strikes, when financial loss occurs, or when a day that promised sunshine instead delivers clouds and rain, our first instinct is often to grumble and lament, to long for a swift change in our fortunes. But Marcus Aurelius, ever the voice of Stoic reason, rejects this approach to destiny. He teaches us that, instead of hoping for a life untouched by adversity, it is far wiser to cultivate within ourselves the strength to endure whatever challenges may arise. This mindset is the foundation of a core Stoic principle known as the dichotomy of control, the recognition that some things are within our control while others are not. It is this simple yet profound distinction that should guide our focus. As Marcus Aurelius wisely asks, then isn't it better to do what's up to you, like a free man, than to be passively controlled by what isn't, like a slave or beggar? These words remind us that when we allow our happiness to hinge on external circumstances, we effectively hand over the reins of our lives to fate, becoming its unwilling subjects. Consider the all-too-common fear of losing a loved one. You might find yourself constantly fretting over the possibility of your partner leaving you, and so you pray fervently that they will remain by your side. Yet, according to Stoic cosmology, everything that happens to us is part of a grander design, attributed to the will of the gods, the ultimate architects of all that is. Events that seem tragic to us are, in the Stoic view, simply the unfolding of the divine plan. Therefore, when a relationship falters and ends, it is not a deviation from the path, but rather a step along it, ordained by the gods. In light of this, Marcus Aurelius advises a redirection of our prayers. Rather than asking for things we cannot control, such as the actions of others, we should pray for the strength to control our own responses. As he so aptly puts it, start praying like this and you'll see. Not some way to sleep with her, but a way to stop wanting to. Not some way to get rid of him, but a way to stop trying. Not some way to save my child, but a way to lose your fear. Redirect your prayers like that and watch what happens. The lesson here is clear. While we cannot dictate the actions of those around us, we can cultivate the resilience to withstand whatever life brings. We cannot prevent a loved one from choosing to leave, but we can develop the inner fortitude to accept that choice with grace. If we learn to embrace misfortune, to accept it as part of the divine plan, even the gods themselves cannot harm us. For in the end, it is not the trials we face that define us, but how we rise to meet them, unbowed and unbroken, with the wisdom to know that even misfortune has its place in the order of things. Swana 4. Embracing the inevitability of change. Change is the very essence of nature, the unyielding force from which everything springs forth and to which everything eventually succumbs. In a universe where nothing remains static, change is the one constant, the perpetual process that defines existence. It is not only the world around us that is in a state of flux, we too are constantly changing. Our bodies, down to the cellular level, are engaged in an unceasing cycle of renewal, a process that continues until the moment we die. Marcus Aurelius wisely observed that change is not merely a natural occurrence, but one that ultimately serves the greater good. The transformations we witness, whether in ourselves or in the environment, may at times seem unfortunate for the individual components involved, but they contribute to the overall well-being of the whole. Just as our bodies replace old cells with new ones, the environment around us is engaged in a continuous process of self-maintenance, discarding the old to make way for the new. This relentless pursuit of optimal conditions is the unfolding of nature's grand design, a plan that, according to Marcus Aurelius, we should accept and even embrace, for it leads to the good health of the world and the well-being and prosperity of Zeus himself. While we have previously contemplated the fleeting nature of all things, change represents something more profound. It is not merely the temporary state of existence, but the ongoing process of becoming, of things constantly evolving into something different. There is no permanence in the universe. Everything is in a state of flux, continuously reshaping itself. Even the most seemingly unchanging objects, a serene landscape, a rock resting in the surf, are undergoing transformation, albeit less visibly than, say, our lips moving as we speak or our posture shifting as we walk. Life forms come and go with varying lifespans. Some, like the mayfly, exist for just a single day, while others, like the glass sponge, endure for over 10,000 years. Even planets, which can survive for billions of years, are not eternal. The same change that brings them into existence will eventually lead to their demise. Without this constant process of change, the world as we know it would not exist, and life itself would be impossible. As Marcus Aurelius succinctly put it, the world is nothing but change. Yet despite being born from change, we paradoxically fear it. We cling to the familiar, situations, objects, people, and ideas, hoping they will remain unchanged, eternally the same. But the change we so desperately resist is already in motion, and it is only a matter of time before it becomes evident to the naked eye. Consider the cycles of nature. When the sun is shining, a storm is already gathering on the horizon. When it is summer, autumn is already making its approach. Trying to preserve the status quo is as futile as trying to grasp water in your hands and expecting it to stay. As Marcus Aurelius observed, some things are rushing into existence, others out of it. Some of what now exists is already gone. Change and flux constantly remake the world, just as the incessant progression of time remakes eternity. We find ourselves in a river. Which of the things around us should we value when none of them can offer a firm foothold? Like an attachment to a sparrow, we glimpse it and it's gone. In this ever-changing river of life, it is wise to accept the inevitability of change, to flow with it rather than against it, and to understand that in this constant flux lies the true nature of the universe. 5. Embracing the reality of our nature. Human beings often grapple with accepting their inherent characteristics, whether it's their physical appearance, innate weaknesses, or the inexorable passage of time that leads to aging and death. Yet in his reflections, Marcus Aurelius consistently urged himself to acknowledge the boundaries set by nature and to find contentment within those limits. He reminded himself to contemplate the nature of the world, his own nature, and the intricate relationship between the two. By doing so, he recognized that he is an integral part of nature, destined to live in harmony with its laws. Some people are endowed with athletic prowess, while others possess keen intellects. While it's true that we can make some changes to ourselves, these alterations are ultimately confined by our natural boundaries. We face a choice. We can either spend our lives fixating on our shortcomings, striving to attain things that are beyond our natural inclinations, or we can embrace our inherent strengths and focus on what we are naturally adept at. The Stoics taught that one of the defining traits of human nature is our capacity for reason. Unlike any other sentient beings on Earth, humans have the unique ability to think rationally. This faculty of reason enables us to rise above our base, animalistic instincts. Rather than being subjugated by our passions, we possess the power to control them through the application of reason. Marcus Aurelius himself offers an example of how he utilized reason to come to terms with the world around him, both its good and bad aspects, despite the more primal parts of his nature urging him otherwise. He writes, "People find pleasure in different ways. I find it in keeping my mind clear, in not turning away from people or the things that happen to them, in accepting and welcoming everything I see, in treating each thing as it deserves." This passage illustrates that humans have the capacity to choose such a mindset thanks to the gift of reason. Our nature affords us the ability to move beyond our base desires and follow a more enlightened path. Instead of blindly pursuing our whims, we can identify these impulses and understand how they might lead to suffering. And rather than being enslaved by our desires and aversions, we can recognize that resisting the inevitable only brings us greater anguish. Thus, with a deeper understanding of the nature of things, we might conclude that accepting external circumstances, especially those we cannot change, is not just an act of resignation, but a profoundly rational choice. It's a decision that aligns us with the flow of nature, allowing us to live more peacefully within the world as it is. Thank you for watching.